Britain's prisons in crisis, a surprise fall in inflation, and HS2 comes off the rails for some. You're watching 5 News Tonight. Up to 10,000 prison guards stop work, saying Britain's jails are in meltdown. Some good news before Christmas as inflation slows, but there is a catch. And the next phase of the high-speed rail route is announced, but it could cost some people their homes.
When we chose to move here, we planned to live here for 10 years. At least until our son went to secondary school. We've just picked out a primary school for him, and it's just heartbreaking.
Also tonight, we're talking about the racism row that's dividing America. A woman wrote a highly offensive post online about Michelle Obama. It was then liked by her town's mayor. So we're asking if Donald Trump's America now encourages racism. And should you share pictures of your kids on social media? 70% of us say there is too much sharenting. We'll hear the arguments. Good evening, welcome to 5 News Tonight. I'm Matt Barbett. The crisis surrounding England's jails boiled over today as thousands of prison officers stopped working in a dispute over their safety. Prisoners were kept locked in their cells and scores of criminal trials were disrupted because of a lack of staff. The protest centres around what the officers describe as a surge in violence, and it follows incidents including a riot, an alleged murder and the escape of 2 inmates. This afternoon, High Court judges ordered officers back to work, but they are refusing. Simon Viger has more.
A day on the outside for the people usually on the inside. These prison officers at Pentonville in North London are just some of the thousands taking part in a walkout. And this is why. They say the recent riot at Bedford Jail and breakouts at other prisons are down to understaffing. Attacks on prison officers have risen from 4,000 last year to almost 6,000 this year.
I feel more vulnerable walking the landings of British prisons than I did walking the streets of Northern Ireland.
Dave Todd was a soldier before he became a prison officer. He says the situation is critical.
We're not keeping a lid on it. Social media was rife with prisoners rioting in Bedford. They took control of a wing. They smashed the wing up, you know. We are not in control. If prisoners want to take control of the wing, but you're no doubt they can take control of the wing.
It is illegal for prison officers to strike, so this action was not announced beforehand. While prisons up and down England and Wales are in lockdown, the courts are in chaos for the simple fact that there's no one to transport the prisoners to the courtrooms. The highest profile case to be postponed was the trial of the alleged murderer of Joe Cox. The MP's parents and sister arrived at the Old Bailey only to be told there could be no hearing because the defendant was still locked in his cell. The government blames the prison officers for letting talks collapse.
These talks were due to continue this morning. Instead, the POA failed to respond to our proposals and called this unlawful action without giving any notice.
Although there is a new recruitment drive, the union says it's way too slow. They need more officers on the inside now, and that's why they were forced to make a stand outside. Simon Viger, 5 News.
Now, the cost of living rose by less than expected last month. The rate of inflation fell from 1% to 0.9%, largely because of lower food prices. But the good news seems to end there. Manufacturers saw their costs go up dramatically, and many, including the Bank of England Governor Mark Carney, say that will eventually push up prices in the shops. Layla Hayes reports.
On the high street, there are still bargains to be had, but for how much longer? The fall in the pound post-Brexit means import prices are rising and many businesses are feeling the pinch. At this London pub, the food and drink they import is now more expensive, but they're reluctant to put up prices.
To cover all these extra costs, it's going to mean 25 to 30p on a pint of beer. Well, there's no way that we can pass that on to our customers. And to be honest, nor would we want to. So we're going to have, as a company, to take that on the chin.
Inflation may be lower than expected, but that could soon change. On the one hand, the price of food is falling, while clothing prices are going up much more slowly than they were last year. But fuel costs are rising more quickly, and manufacturers are being hit. The cost of the materials they buy are soaring.
So far, many retailers have been absorbing the higher costs, worried that if they put up prices, they could lose customers. But that situation isn't likely to last forever.
Today, the Governor of the Bank of England gave this warning.
As an individual, I wouldn't take a steer from the October numbers to say that was all just noise. No, unfortunately, inflation is going to go up. That's the consequence of a very large move in the exchange rate.
So are we feeling the effect on the high street?
The salary is not increasing, and the price and the cost of living is still going up, and we're still expected to survive.
Because of the Brexit, it's going to worse and worse and worse.
I mean, I don't think you're going to really feel a change, any sort of impact until after Christmas, beginning of the new year.
The Brexit effect on prices may not be here yet, but experts warn it will be eventually. Layla Hayes, 5 News.
The besieged Syrian city of Aleppo has been bombarded by airstrikes for the first time in nearly a month. Footage said to have been filmed today shows residents fleeing after the neighbourhoods were struck. They'd reportedly been sent texts at the weekend giving them 24 hours warning to leave. However, Moscow has denied that Russian or Syrian planes were involved in the latest airstrikes. Police are investigating the death of a 14-year-old schoolboy who fell ill while in detention. It's reported that Nasser Ahmed was severely asthmatic and was being kept in an exclusion group under a teacher's supervision at Bow School in East London. And a consultancy firm says it was behind a report that suggests the government plans for Brexit are in chaos. The document claimed ministers had no overall strategy and that they were divided over the plans, but Deloitte says it was an internal report and wasn't commissioned by the Cabinet Office or any government department. A racist Facebook post about Michelle Obama is causing a major controversy in America. It began when a woman in Clay County in West Virginia posted this: "It will be refreshing to have a classy, beautiful, dignified First Lady in the White House." She then went on to make a highly offensive comment comparing the current First Lady to an animal in heels. The woman who posted it is called Pamela Ramsey Taylor, who subsequently lost her job, but not before the town's mayor had replied to her tweet saying, "It just made my day." There are now calls for her to step down. So is this kind of comment a byproduct of Donald Trump's win? Some say his racist, sexist rhetoric during the campaign is now giving the green light for millions of Americans to follow suit. Earlier, I spoke to Tara Setmayer, who's a Republican commentator based in New York. I began by asking her what she felt when she first saw the comments.
It made me cringe, and unfortunately, I just felt that comments like that, racially inflammatory, offensive remarks, have been par for the course, unfortunately, throughout this entire presidential election, given that Donald Trump has the support of the alt-right, which is known as a white nationalist contingent here in the United States. So he didn't start this, but he certainly empowered and emboldened folks like that to believe it's okay to make comments like they did about the First Lady, the president, and even people of color who don't support Donald Trump. It's been problematic throughout the entire campaign, that kind of language.
Donald Trump spoke quite openly about dismantling President Obama's legacy, particularly with Obamacare. He may have reined that in a bit recently, but he still intends to roll back a lot of those things. But actually, is his election win rolling back a lot of the gains that were made in terms of race relations in the States by having the first non-white first family in the White House?
You know, it's interesting because some folks would believe that President Obama's presidency actually made race relations worse. That's been poll tested in the past, where both blacks and whites have felt that there's been more of a racial divide over the course of President Obama's presidency, just based on how he handled certain issues domestically, from police shootings and other instances and rioting in certain cities. It's been an interesting dynamic. But with Donald Trump coming into office with the kind of racial rhetoric and very xenophobic rhetoric at times, catering to that crowd and not really repudiating it strongly. I mean, he did so with a nod and a wink a couple times, but not emphatically enough for this group to feel as though they are repudiated. I mean, David Duke, who was a leader in the KKK at one point many years ago, decided to run for Senate in Louisiana. again after he had been basically run out of the Republican Party 25 years ago. He said Donald Trump's candidacy emboldened him and inspired him to do that. So I think we have to really take a look at what that means and how Donald Trump handles that moving forward, because he has to be president for everyone.
Tara, final question. As a black woman living in America, now that Donald Trump is president-elect, do you feel more safe or less safe than you did before?
I don't think it's an issue of safety. I think that it's Donald Trump's candidacy and how he's handled the protests against him, some of the racially inflammatory language that he's used and his supporters have used. I think it's been an eye-opening experience for many of us. I never really experienced the level of vitriol that I did opposing Donald Trump as a Republican, lifelong Republican. I don't know that I wouldn't say that I fear that my safety is at risk, but I will say that it means that we all need to be vigilant and remain vigilant and to not allow that kind of behavior to become normalized. That is, I think, one of the biggest concerns for a lot of people in this country, that kind of language and that attitude is becoming mainstream, and it shouldn't. So I think folks need to just remain vigilant, hold them accountable, and not allow that kind of rhetoric to bully dissent into silence, because our country was founded on the ability to dissent freely, and we need to continue to do that and hold them accountable for it.
Tara, many thanks indeed.
Thank you so much.
Now, listen to this question. Do you know how to spot the symptoms of ovarian cancer? The chances are probably not, and that ignorance could kill you. That's the warning today from a leading charity which says awareness of that particular cancer is woefully low here in the UK, where it claims the lives of 4,000 women every year. Anwen Jones is the chief executive of Target Ovarian Cancer. She's with me now. The first thing to do, Anwen, is let's talk through the symptoms, because it's obvious that not enough people know them.
That's right, and I mean the problem is that ovarian cancer is diagnosed far too late in most women, and this really does impact on their prospects of survival. So the symptoms of ovarian cancer are abdominal bloating, and by this we mean not just bloating that comes and goes, but persistent bloating, pain in the stomach or the pelvis, difficulty eating, feeling full, needing to urinate often. These are the key symptoms. But you should also look out for changes in bowel habit and extreme fatigue and unexplained weight loss.
And these symptoms, particularly the bloating, I know is fairly key. What, over days, weeks? How persistent should that be before you should be concerned enough to go and see your doctor?
Yes, if you have bloating for 3 weeks or more, then you should visit your GP. And we have, at Target Ovarian Cancer, have got information on our website, targetovariancancer.org.uk, about the symptoms, if you didn't catch them all when we read through them. But we also have a symptoms diary, so that you can actually keep track. And what we found in the Pathfinder study, which we published today, which is really the kind of the state of the nation for ovarian cancer, is that awareness levels are way too low. Only 20% of women could identify bloating as a symptom.
Well, why do you think that is the case? Because other cancers obviously get an awful lot of attention. I'm sure most women watching will know how to check for breast cancer, for example, checking themselves for lumps. So why do other cancers, ovarian cancer, prostate, maybe another one for men, get overlooked?
We just haven't seen yet the focus that we need to have. We're calling for national ovarian cancer awareness campaign. We need the government to drive that. It needs to be on a scale so that all women can understand what the symptoms of ovarian cancer are and know when to go to their GP. That's absolutely essential. But we also need to make sure that GPs act early when women do go to them with symptoms, so that the disease can be diagnosed promptly.
And this is not dozens of women or hundreds, it's 4,000. So clearly there needs to be a change. Anwen, many thanks indeed for coming in. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Still to come on 5 News Tonight. Do you do too much sharenting? You know what I mean? The downsides of putting pictures of your kids on Facebook.
But there's absolutely nothing to worry about.
And we speak to Eddie Redmayne about Harry Potter, James Bond and Donald Trump. Sounds like a new movie. We'll see you after the break. Welcome back. You're watching 5 News Tonight. It is the costly, controversial, but some say vital project designed to boost the economy across the country. And today, the route for the northern stage of the High Speed 2 rail line was unveiled, and it caused anger amongst those whose homes and neighbourhoods are in its path. The Transport Secretary said he felt desperately sorry for them. Well, Peter Lane's been meeting residents in the town of Mexborough.
Houses that are still going up might soon have to come down. The cement and paintwork on this new estate in South Yorkshire is barely dry, but plans outlined today for HS2 mean these brand new homes could be demolished. When Rachel and her young family moved on to the development in Mexborough, the high-speed line was coming nowhere near them. But a change to the government's preferred option now has the map showing HS2 right on top of them.
We plan to live here for 10 years, at least until our son went to secondary school. We've just picked out a primary school for him, and it's just heartbreaking that that might all be taken away, that we might have to move from here.
The High Speed 2 network will transform rail travel in Great Britain.
This original promo shows the South Yorkshire section of line running via Meadowhall on the outskirts of Sheffield, but now the plan is to shift it further east. It's one of a number of tweaks put forward today for consultation. Critics say the whole route should have been finalised long ago and question if the project can come in on schedule and budget. Today the Transport Secretary said even people who never use HS2 will benefit.
High-quality transport allows businesses to grow, work together and access a wide range of customers, suppliers and skilled labour markets. By improving connections between our great cities, HS2 will generate jobs, skills and economic growth and help us build an economy that works for all.
Residents on the estate back in Mexborough, like Katie, have the government's sympathy and will get compensation. But right now that doesn't help with what's coming.
It will come all the way over our heads here, over the canal, as you can see, straight over, sort of adjacent to that bridge.
So we'd be underneath it now?
Absolutely. But these are people's lives and these are people's homes. Beautiful, beautiful landscapes. So for the dog and the cat and the kids, it's just really, really lovely, and that's why we bought this, and we don't want to move at all.
If HS2 does come through here, the trains are due to be running on this spot by 2033. Peter Lane, 5 News.
Next up, should you post pictures of your kids on Facebook? Well, that's the subject of a bit of a debate just now after a new survey showed that more than 70% of people think parents just share too much. And a recent study showed the average parent will put 1,500 photographs of their child online by the time of their 5th birthday. Those in favour say it's a great way to share those special moments like these with your family and friends. But others say that not only is it an invasion of a child's privacy, after all, they don't get asked first, not necessarily, it's also really quite annoying. So, who's right? Let's speak to Letty Maciel, whose blogs about parenting at the Inside Edit, and who took those pictures that we just showed. And also with me is Vicky Shotbelt, who runs the Parent Zone website. Letty, how much do you post online, pictures of your kids?
I'd say probably about an image a week.
Yeah, an image a week?
Yeah,
okay.
2 images.
1 or 2, because that could be 50 or 100 a year.
It depends how good they're being.
And over their childhood, we're talking thousands. Do you think that's just about right, too much, too little, or what?
I think for us it's fine, definitely.
For you it's fine, because you've got a reason to do it.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, the Inside Edit, our blog is really about inspiring parents like ourselves to just have fun with parenting and really enjoying it in London, because we are Londoners. So they need to see, you know, places where we're going and activities and a reason and questions they ask.
That's a nice picture, but how does it help exactly? That's also a great picture. I mean, who doesn't love a kid in a Batman costume? But is it just letting a bit too much of an insight into your life? I mean, do you know who's looking at these pictures?
We do some, yes, but I think a lot of it is also inspiration. You know, I take inspiration from other you know, Insta mums or Insta dads who are taking a picture and think, oh, that's great. Oh, I'd like to put that in an album one day, or, you know, get all my pictures from Instagram and put it in a nice album for my kids in the future.
OK.
Yeah.
I thought we coined enough words with sharenting, Vicky, but we've got Insta mums and Insta dads now.
That's a new one on me.
Where do you draw the line?
I think I draw the line with too much public sharing. Those photos are beautiful. Your kids are beautiful, and I can completely understand why you would want to share them. But what nobody can possibly know is how children are going to feel about it when they get to the age of 15, 16, 17, when they reach those "you're so embarrassing, mum" years. And this huge digital footprint is something that's been created without their permission. So it's a risky thing to do, I think.
Risky? Should you be asking a 5-year-old permission to put their picture on Facebook?
Well, the point is you can't. It's not possible to ask a 5-year-old, really, and get proper informed consent for a 5-year-old. That's not something that you can do. So I would say, really, you need to take a fairly precautionary approach and think, should I be doing this? Because in anticipation of the fact when they're older, what will they say?
Because, I mean, it is reassuring that over 2/3 of parents knew exactly what their privacy settings were on social media. So people, by and large, 2/3 of them or a bit more, are taking this quite seriously, Letty, in terms of putting stuff on there. But let's just talk about those ones who know their privacy settings. They're still friends with the likes of you and me, and there is just a deluge of photos. And not just a deluge, they're changing their own photo to a photo of their children. You know what I'm talking about here. That's too much.
Yeah. I think,
Come on,
I think people can do whatever they want. It's the reality. Social media is our new reality.
OK, can you unfriend them then? Is that right? You said that you're sharing too much. You need to unfriend.
No, I think it's a happy occasion. Everybody's happy to have a kid. You know, your kid says something really funny and you want to post it up and it makes you laugh, it makes your day. It might actually just make your day, Matt. It might actually. So, and also it's the way technology is moving right now. I think instead of concentrating so much about the image, we should be teaching our kids about how to stay safe.
That's a good point. But turning on its head, you talk about concentrating on image. No one puts up pictures of their kids looking ugly or them in the in the middle of some sort of crisis where they're throwing food around. They're already editing and putting out a sort of perfect view, and that's really not the case.
No, and it's not all that healthy. I mean, one of the things that we know about children is that they are starting to shape their own sense of themselves through what they see online, and they're worried about their body image. Even primary school children are starting to worry about their body image, and that's partly been fueled by social media. And actually, some parents do share those photos. I mean, there's a really famous YouTube video of the child who's had their teeth out and is really distressed. So parents do share images
the ones
that you think
still under the influence of the anaesthetic.
Yeah, that's like, why would you do that?
Was quite amusing.
It was funny. I absolutely agree. It was funny.
I think we're all still in a bit of a learning process about this, whether we're parents or children or growing up with these pictures of us online. Thank you both very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Finally, fans who've been missing the magic of Harry Potter, kids young and old, are getting a bit of a treat this week. A spin-off called Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, based on the book by J.K. Rowling, is being released. It takes place decades before Harry was born and will be the first in a series of 5 films. But can it cast the same spell? Minnie Stevenson has more.
Yesterday, a wizard entered New York with a case.
Picture the scene inside the suitcase, a world of magical animals about to be let loose in 1920s New York City. Cue absolute chaos and Eddie Redmayne playing a wizard trying desperately to contain them. Welcome to the world of Fantastic Beasts, the J.K. Rowling Harry Potter spin-off. And today, back in Muggleland, I met Oscar winner Redmayne with the film and 4 times Potter director David Yates.
I wanted to ask you, how do you go from being a grown-up to talking to CGI beasts?
We had a couple of months of working with puppeteers and then sometimes with actors and then talking to the visual effects department and we sort of ended up, each creature would have a different representation.
In your darkest moments, were you talking to yourself?
Always.
Yes. The movie is set some 50 years before Harry Potter is born, and it's the first of 5 films planned by the Warner Brothers empire. But seeing as it follows one of the most successful film series of all time, are those big wizard shoes to fill. Do you feel that pressure when you're kind of entering the Harry Potter world that you have to do it justice, or did you just separate the two because it's too much?
Genuinely managed to sort of create a vacuum in which we felt free to try and to fail, and it's only since we've started talking to journalists we keep going, how's that pressure feeling, that I start sweating a lot. But
yeah, I'm glad we've done that.
Thank you so much, so kind.
Do you know, my observation is they brought a lot of love, these guys.
While some US film critics have called Fantastic Beasts perfect escapism from last week's American election, I wanted to know...
Obviously, it's set in New York City. What do you think the world of Fantastic Beasts would make of a Trump presidency? Would it be chaos? Would they be calm? How would they react?
The Beast would probably be deported, I'm sure.
That's probably
frankly.
true.
But there's absolutely nothing to worry about.
Given that the Harry Potter franchise is worth more than the James Bond films, it would be rude not to ask Redmayne.
Do you ever fancy James Bond? Is that something we can ever see you doing? There's lots of talk about it.
I would be a useless James Bond.
Really?
Yeah.
No?
I mean, I love going to see James Bond films, and I definitely don't want to see myself playing it. Like, I would hate that.
And finally, never mind Hogwarts. I had to ask Redmayne if he felt he'd now graduated from the school of how to be famous.
How do you prepare? You just sit in a room going, sort of flexing, I don't know, I was warming up. You try and just take it step by step.
The film is out this Friday when a world of very scary beasts will be set free in cinemas. And I'm not talking about the critics.
Nothing to worry about.
Looks all right, doesn't it? Just before we came on air, Minnie caught up with J.K. Rowling herself at the premiere in Leicester Square, and she began by asking her if she still gets nervous.
Of course I get nervous. This was something entirely new to write a screenplay, and I didn't actually mean to write the screenplay, if I'm not totally honest. When Warner Brothers said that they wanted to do something with the book Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, I said, OK, great, but I know a lot about Newt, because he was a character that I'd really fallen for when I wrote the book, and because it was such a little book, I'd never had room for it. So I thought, well, I'll just write down some notes about who Newt is, and then that turned into a whole story, and then that turned into a rough screenplay that I thought they'd give to someone competent, but instead they said, no, go on, you keep doing it. So I really fell into this. I didn't actually mean to be a screenwriter.
And Johnny Depp makes a fleeting cameo. We hear he's a Harry Potter fan.
I believe so. We've had some conversations, and yes.
What was he like?
He was cast a while back, so I was telling him a lot of backstory on the character he plays. Okay. And for those few people who don't know who that is yet, I'll keep it quiet just in case anyone will get the big reveal at the end.
Are you still feeling the pressure?
Always. I always feel pressure.
Even now, J.K. Rowling there speaking to our Minnie down at the premiere of her new film. That's it from us for now. Claire Nazir is here with you with the next. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.